Hi, I'm Heather. So the first book that So the second book that I read this week was Gods of Jade and Shadow by Silvia Moreno-Garcia. And this is actually my second attempt at reading this book. First time I tried to actually read it in a hardcover, and then I decided that maybe this book would be better done as an audio version. And it turned out I was correct. And listening to it, it felt like a story that needed to be told. I needed to hear someone else telling it to me. And I actually read on Goodreads someone saying something similar, that this doesn't feel like something you're reading, but something that you're hearing. And so just kind of first and foremost, if you like audiobooks, you should read this too, and you should listen to it. So this story centers around the 1920s, and the Mayan god of death finds himself kind of stuck with this young girl as a way to save himself. So they're kind of thrown into this together. She accidentally releases him, but in order for him to reclaim his throne, they kind of have to stick together in things. And I love a good story about people who are very different being forced to work together. And I think what I really enjoyed about this story was the way in which they both changed, and how their experiences together made them both different and both better as a result of it. And at the end of the story, you see how both characters have really grown in a way that I just really appreciated. I also really liked, so I don't want to give too much away, but normally I really, really hate books that have, not hate, but I feel uncomfortable with books where there's like a very large age gap between two characters that are romantically interested in one another. And at first, when I was kind of reading it, I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy's been around for centuries, and she's like a late teenager, early 20s, and yet there is a very purposeful plot point that fixes that for me in a way that I really liked and I really enjoyed. So you have Cassiopeia, who's from this small town. She's going into the city. She's going into the underworld essentially, and she's having to learn a lot. She's had a very sheltered life, and then you have this god of death who is very much just kind of cold-hearted and not really used to seeing people as people. And he's getting this experience of realizing like, wait, actually he's invested in her now, and he wants the best for her. So it was, like I said, trying to get through the hard copy of it, I struggled with, but actually listening to the audiobook, it was something that I started to really find myself trying to find as many excuses to listen to the book as I could, and I actually ended up finishing it pretty quickly. I think that the ending of the book, I'm still kind of processing. It's one of those things where you're reading and you're like, I really hope this book ends this way. And it did not end the way I was hoping that it would. But I think that it ended the way it needed to end. And I think I agree with the author's decision, even if it makes me sad, and made me feel like, I wish things could have been different in the way that this story wrapped up. But I support the author's decision, and I think it was the right one. This book was just really, really good, and I'm so glad that I gave the audiobook version a try. I think you should read this book too if you like mythology. I love mythology, especially like modern retellings. I like characters, kind of re-examined. And in this one, having, while the 1920s isn't the present, it's still more present than a lot of myths are told in. And so that was kind of fun too, just to see this Mayan god of death interacting, with cars and flapper style speakeasy type places, although they do make it clear that alcohol was not banned in Mexico, and that kind of was a driving force in Americans coming across the border. But anyway, I do recommend this book, and I really enjoyed it.